In this video, I'm going to show you a 24/7 agent that never stops and will increase your productivity by 90%. No, I'm just kidding. I've been working with agents a lot now, and I have found that a lot of the times you don't need a 24/7 agent, but you just need small agents that actually produce some value. Whether it's speeding up your workflows or speeding up your decision making. And in this video series, that is my goal, is just to show simple workflows that you can easily implement, especially with AI, and actually get some kind of productivity from them. Not a 24/7 research agent that just gives you a ton of research that you're not really going to do anything about, but it sounded cool to actually make. And I've been struggling with that because I see these videos everywhere and it makes me feel FOMO, where I'm like, oh, I'm missing out. But then I actually implement them. I'm like, this is too much for what I can actually produce. This just gives me too much and it really doesn't help. So in this video, we're actually going to go over something that would help. I helped a friend who owns a business with this exact problem. And the problem is with small businesses, work is always scattered everywhere. A quote request comes in by email. A customer leaves a voicemail. Somebody texts a picture of a broken gate. A PDF gets downloaded. It's just scattered everywhere. And the person who owns this workflow has to remember all of these things and also remember that a follow-up needs to be sent out to a potential client. So today I wanted to test Claude Cowork on that exact kind of mess. I'm going to show you how to set it up. And again, this is not, can it write a clever email, but can it help turn all the scattered pieces of information into an actual workflow? So if you guys haven't seen it or heard about it before, Claude Cowork is interesting because it actually lives in your desktop and in your files, while it can also connect to your emails and other software on your computer. And this is far different than a normal chatbot, because a normal chatbot, you just copy the information in, and then once you get the answer, you copy it out and place it into email. It doesn't actually connect things together. That is why Claude Cowork is so nice. And the most practical use case for this is often just using it to organize a messy folder, pull the useful information out of documents or Excel files, update the tracker, draft a follow-up email that you could then review, and then tell me what needs attention. And the rest of this series, I will be working with other tools. I will be exploring ChatGPT and Codex, which recently came out. I will go over Zapier, Make, Airtable, Notion, Google Workspace, and eventually the automation system that I'm building myself, which I already have some videos out that you can go view here. For this demo, I'm going to use a fictional company that is a lot like my friends, and it's just a home services company. So what they get is they get a small home repair and maintenance request from a bunch of different places or a bunch of different locations. So the owner needs three things. They need to organize incoming requests, and then draft follow-up emails, and then create a weekly summary of what it needs attention. So as per usual, everything in this video is synthetic. None of it is actual client data or client information. It was all created using AI just for the sake of privacy. So the first thing you want to do with Claude Cowork is give it a safe workspace. So I'll go ahead and show you mine now. So here is my workspace. I have this in a folder for my YouTube videos, but this would normally be a folder in itself. And my YouTube actually created all of these when I gave it the script, which that is my YouTube pipeline agent, and I will show that probably way later. It's really interesting. It gives me pretty much a script and all these sample documents that will help me actually do the video as I describe them in my first chat. And so it's really great to use. But enough of that. We have our job notes, our business rules MD, our customer tracker, and then our inbox export CSV. So this is the tracker where we'll pretty much take all of the phones or web forms, photo notes, and put that into. So we got our basic setup, and you can make this so it works for you. Depending on what you want to do, have several folders, and then I would always highly suggest having some kind of CSV that is your main tracker outside of the folders that you could then look at. So we'll go ahead and open up our Cowork. I'll show you guys how to work actually inside that file. So we have our new task, and then it will go ahead and find our folder. So we found it and just selected it. So we have it selected, and now we can actually assign it a task. Another thing you can do too is you can go ahead and hit projects and then create new projects, and then include a selecting folder, and then select your folder here. And then this will basically give you a project that is similar to Claude's web browser projects, where you just work into it and you could have new chats or tasks in them. I can go ahead and show you this one. So it has the outputs and then the recent chats that I've had with it. And then if it does have some schedule actions, it will be there. And then if you do have instructions, you can put it here. And you can also change your files and then also memory as well, which is memory is super important, which we'll actually go over once we do start this project. So I'll go back to that folder. So I'm going to and found the folder. I just hit select, and then I'll put in my prompt. And then one thing to keep in mind is privacy and client information. So if you want to keep that stuff private, then I would highly suggest not having it actually go through your folder and take that private details and store it somewhere else that Claude won't touch. But if you're fine with it, then you can go ahead and have it review a folder. So I'm giving its parameters, and first I want to see what workflow it would suggest. And then I also want to make a Claude MD file that we didn't do previously, and I will do that in the prompt as well, and then also a memory layer as well. So we have our prompt. Now we are also adding the Claude MD file, and then also a memory MD file, which Jeff Su has a great video on how he sets up his own Claude workspace. And honestly, I would highly recommend it. But for this one, we would only keep it relatively simple. So one thing to keep in mind with the Claude MD file is it's similar to instructions in the projects folder. Basically, every time you work in a folder space with Claude Cowork, it will first read that Claude MD file and then also the memory, and then it will take action based on your prompt. So it's just another layer of instructions, and it's focused specifically on this file set. And we're going to just have a outline templated used by the prompt, and then eventually as we start building this out, we can update it and make it more into what we want for this. So we'll just go ahead and send that. Working on it. So we'll give that a second to run. So it just finished up and tells us what files it found, the recommended workflow, and we could either take this on or make some edits to it. So step one is triage every business request against the business rules, which is for our business rules MD file. And we'll go ahead and open that up just so you guys can see what that is. And I'm using VSL to open it up, but I would highly suggest getting Obsidian, especially if you're not techie. It's super easy to download. I would just have AI walk you through it, and then you can view these in a much easier view. I'll actually show you what that looks like. So this is what it looks like in Obsidian. It's just an easier way to view MD files. So of course, I would have something similar and then make your own edits to this on how you want this to actually act, because this is again another set of instructions to help Claude or your AI in how it acts on certain things. So service priorities, we have urgent, safety, communication rules. We have service riverbend typically handles, so what they perform, and then also what they do not handle. So we'll go back to our answer. So it gets triaged with the urgency, status, and next action for the owner. populate the customer tracker. All 10 requests go in, each with a clear next action. Nothing is guessed, missing is flagged, and then we have draft follow-up notes inline. And the biggest thing with this is having it review before sending. Then it gives you some key triage decisions to apply. So that's all great. And then it did create our Claude MD file and then also our memory MD file. So we can view these here and then make any changes we want to in the chat. So we have our MD, we have our business context, our source files, standing instructions, and then our logic, workflow steps, what it should never modify, and then also the notes. So again, this is what Claude Cowork will look at before ever working in a file. So we always want to keep that up to date. And then we also have our memory MD file. So this just gives us pretty much a context of what activities we took previously. And then as we hopefully go, this will be updated so we can always see where we're at or the last thing that was done. In this case, it might not be the best use case, but if you are doing a project or something like that, you would want this just because whenever you leave your laptop or leave your desktop and come back to it, it will actually have what you did last on it and then the next steps. And then a good workflow is to actually have the Claude MD file have it so it always updates the memory file anytime you do anything, or you manually do that. But if it's not asked or in the instructions to update this memory MD file, it won't. So keep that in mind. All right, so next we'll go ahead and the next prompt. And I already have this worked out, but if you wanted to, you could just describe what you wanted, or if you like its recommended workflow, you can just go ahead and hit yes to that. So we'll send that. So it just finished up and it helps us classify all of those items, which sometimes is the biggest thing. If you have a ton of emails or different quotes coming in or requests, just having a way to actually classify them to see which ones are urgent, then which follow-ups are needed, and then maybe which ones don't even fit what your business does. So it gives us that, and then it also has updated our memory MD. And then as you could probably guess, our next step is to update the customer tracker, which it actually has right here, but we'll go ahead and give it the prompt that I created. So it just completed, and now we have our updated tracker that we could view here, or we can download our CSV. And that's a nice thing about Claude Cowork too, is it actually works inside your files. So if you already have a tracker and you are manually updating it, just take the process of what you're manually doing now and just automate it using Claude Cowork. So we can see it here, but let's go see if it's actually downloaded. So we can see it here. Let's go see if it's actually updated in the folder file. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. So as you can see, it actually uploaded that. So we have our customer name, request summary. We have our urgency, next action, status, owner review, and then we also have our follow-up draft that we will be sending to the client. So a pretty good tracker. So we'll go ahead and go back to our Claude Cowork. Let's have that. So the next one, we will actually go and have it draft these emails. And so there's a couple ways you can do that. So the first way is just have it similar to the tracker, which it automatically did for us. But you can also have it draft emails directly into your Gmail. And it could also automatically send them. But I would highly suggest not automatically sending them, especially if it's something as important as a follow-up with a potential paying client. Not until you feel more comfortable with the workflow, then I would possibly look at it. But me personally, I like to review everything. But to do that, you would have to Gmail integration. So what does that mean? So we'll go ahead and go to connectors. And so you have to be able to connect to Gmail for this to actually occur without you manually having to do that. And once you do have this connector to Gmail, it can do other things. It can look at your inbox and actually look for any of these quotes or any of these clients reaching out to possibly schedule some work with your business, and then you can have it take that from the email and update your tracker. That step, you do have to have the agent a little bit more precise because you don't want to pick up random emails that may not have the actual request that you're looking for. But that's all things you could test out. So I will actually show this, and here's my prompt. And then I'm also going to show you how you can do it actually in your Gmail, and I'll show you where that shows up and what I would recommend. So I just added on to the original prompt I had to generate it in Gmail as a draft. And then I also said that I wanted proper business formatting. So I've noticed this because I do have a workflow that I actually outreach to clients that it will actually bring in leads and then create personalized messages off that and then draft them in my Gmail, which I review. And one thing I notice is a lot of the times it will not have good formatting. So to fix this, you can either say I want proper business formatting, or you can actually create another MD file or actually add to your Claude MD and describe how you want your email formatted. Maybe give an example in here for it to work off of, and it will use that context to actually create the email. So that's an option as well. So we'll go ahead and send it. So it's asking me to work inside Gmail. I will go ahead. You have two options here. You can either allow once or allow for this task or allow for all tasks. I'm just going to do allow for this task because personally, I don't want to give it the complete freedom to work inside my Gmail. I want to have some oversight, but that is completely up to your discretion. And then as this is working, we'll look at the sample data we have on the right. And so this is everything that's in our folder that we're working in. And then we have our context, which is our connectors. So we have Gmail. And as you add more things into this, it will show up on the right side. And you can see what it's doing now and the actual coding that it's doing, or the tool calls. You can actually see the tool calls right here. Just finished up. We have our 7 drafts, and then 2 people need a phone call instead. No email on files. We have the actual drafted email in a couple of different places. We have it right here in our tracker. But now we'll go ahead and look at it actually in our Gmail. And this is just to show you that you guys can do this. So here is my Gmail, and we have our drafts. So we have our review before sending, which is a good practice because you definitely have to remove this before sending it out. And then we have our business formatting. And any of this you can change in those instruction files. So if you don't like the formatting and want to make it more particular to what you're doing, or if you want it to actually be in your tone of voice, you can add an MD file based on your tone of voice. And again, Jeff Sue has a great video and even some great prompts on this. I would highly suggest going and looking at that. So we have our 7 emails that are just ready to send. So a huge time saver there. We'll go back to our Claude Cowork. Next, I will show you the next use case, which is actually creating a weekly summary off this. We'll just go ahead and put the prompt in and we'll let it run. So I know we've gone over a lot, but the main thing is basically first, if you do have a tracker, if you don't, I would use Claude Cowork to help you bring all your files, all the inputs that are coming in, whether it's from Gmail, whether it's from other sources. If it is a phone call, that might be a little tricky because somehow you have to get that transcript into the system or you put it directly into the tracker. If it's a Gmail, you have it connect to Gmail. If it's from a website, then you can brainstorm some solutions with AI to get that, or you manually update the tracker. And then from there, you have it actually create you a follow-up email, and you also have it update the tracker. And so once you have that tracker, you can pretty much monitoring where everything is and then have the follow-up emails, and you can make this pretty manual. And then you can have it run a weekly check. We have our actions that are required today, and then waiting and customer information, follow-ups that are ready, high risk or ambiguous, high risk requests, and then closed that need no action, and then suggest the next 3 actions, which I always find that is a good. But as I was saying before, I know I went over a lot, and how do you actually implement this? So the biggest thing is the ability for it to work in files and also connect to outside tools like Gmails, and then you have a bunch of other connectors. So first, I would have it actually create a tracker that you can use Claude Cowork to update, whether it's taken from different files. And as I said before, you can find solutions to these options. Like if it's phone calls, that's a little bit harder. I would manually put it in. But if it's like email, you can have it automated too. And that's pretty much the next step. Is at first I would do it manually and then manually update these drafts. And then once you feel comfortable in that process, and then you can start actually doing scheduled items. So say it checks your email every day for some quotes, or have it check your email every day for somebody requesting work, and then it will automatically update your tracker. And then you automate the weekly owner summary, which gives you pretty much everything that's going on and helps you sort through that tracker, because sometimes it's not easy to look through a tracker and know what steps to take. And so it's just finding the workflow that works best for you. And I've noticed this as I worked with clients and also my coworkers, is it's always going to be personalized for you. You have to pretty much think about your processes and then base the automations off of that. This is an easy but actually impactful workflow that you can start and build upon too. And that's one thing I've noticed too. It's all about reiteration. It's always building something, just a rough draft, and then build on top of it. And then you notice you don't like something. You notice that the draft emails you're getting don't sound like you. Then you build on it. So what works is Claude Cowork can sort messy information. It can turn scattered files into a tracker. It can draft reviewed follow-ups. And then it can create a summary for you that reduces actual decision fatigue and gives you a nice next steps list. What still needs a human is customer facing messages. You always want to have a human review it, especially if it's going out to a customer. You also want a human involved in the pricing, the scheduling commitments, anything legal, financial, HR, medical, or regulated. And then any workflow using private client data or private customer data. So as I said in previously, this is not a 24/7 agent. It is not going to run your business, but it is giving AI a simple admin workflow that has it show its work and also still keeps a human in the loop before any major actions are taken. So overall, I would highly suggest trying this out. I would have it organized just one of your messy folders. And it doesn't have to be a customer facing folder. It could be just your SOPs or stuff like that. Just have it try that so you are getting used to that work. And then you could eventually start with intake triage, follow-up drafts, weekly owner summaries. And they're not the most flashy, but they are valuable and reviewable. So that's it for this video. In my next video, I'm going to continue showing short AI workflows with this tool, specifically Claude Cowork, and then I'm going to expand on that. And I use Gmail at work, so I'm going to show a few of those if I can. If you guys like the content, then please like and subscribe. Thank you.